Alright guys, today's goal, solving quadratic equations by factoring square root property in special forms. So the first thing you should always try to check is factor. Remember, a times c, so it multiplies the 35, adds to negative 12, so this is going to be negative 7, negative 5, so you get x equals 7, x equals 5. Okay? Now here, I can't just say 3 and 10 because it's 8 times 3, so you got to think 24 adds to equal negative 10. Okay, so it'd be negative 6, negative 4. So can I multiply 8 and have it equal negative 6 or negative 4? No. How about 4 and 2 though? Yes, so I'm going to use 4x and 2x. What do I multiply 4 to have it equal negative 6? I can't, not by the whole number, but negative 4 is negative 1, and that means that's negative 3. So you get 4x minus 3 equals 0, 2x minus 1 equals 0, so x equals 1/2, x equals 3/4. Now here, see how the x squared is by itself, and there's not an x or anything else in it, so you just square root, x equals plus or minus 4. You have to remember that any time you take a square root while solving an equation, you have to do plus or minus. Okay? Let's take a look at another. Alright, see how there is just m squared, no m, no anything else, so add the 40. 5m squared equals 40, divide by 5. You get m squared equals 8, square root, so you get m equals plus or minus. Now remember, we can say that square root 4 square root 2, we got to simplify it, so it's plus or minus 2 square root 2. Okay? Let's keep going. Here, again, w squared is by itself, so multiply by 4. You get w squared equals 196, square root. You get w equals plus or minus 14. Let's keep going. Let's see, here it looks like it's not by itself, but see how everything inside the parentheses is being squared? So that means square root, and we're just going to have two equations here. You get x plus 5 equals plus or minus 5. So you have to think x plus 5 equals negative 5, x plus 5 equals positive 5. Subtract 5, you get x equals negative 10, x equals 0. So there's your two answers. Okay? Let's take a look at some more. So again, everything being squared is in the parentheses, square root, so you get p minus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 3. Can't simplify that. Add the 4, so you get p equals 4 plus or minus square root 3. There are your final answers. Okay? Same thing here. Square root. So you get 5m plus 1 equals plus or minus square root 7. Subtract the 1. 5m equals negative 1 plus or minus square root 7. Divide everything by 5. M equals negative 1/5 plus or minus square root 7 over 5. Okay? Let's take a look at some more. Alright, so now they're not by themselves, so this is back to factoring. But see how they have x to the 4th in common? So if I factor out x to the 4th, I get 7x minus 4. Now, see how they're factored? So you go x to the 4th equals 0, 7x minus 4 equals 0. So this one's x equals 7/4. Now here, normally you would still have to do plus or minus because it's an even, but it's 0, so there is no plus or minus, so it's just x equals 0. Okay? Let's take a look at some more. Alright, so some more factoring here. What do they have in common? So they have y to the 1st and 2. So factor out the 2y. What are you left with? Y squared minus 4. So now we have 2y equals 0. Y squared minus 4 equals 0. Y squared equals 4. Square root, you get y equals plus or minus 2. Divide by 2, y equals 0. Okay, so there, and you can say negative 2 comma 2. All right, let's keep going. All right, now this is where we have to remember factoring by grouping. So remember, we have x to the third plus 3x squared. Remember, we never want minus in the middle, so change it to plus negative 4x minus 12. Group them. They have x squared in common here. You have x plus 3. I need to factor out the negative 4. Why? Because remember, we need this to match. See how you have one positive x? So we need this to be positive 1x. And so it would be x plus 3 because negative 12 divided by negative 4, positive 3. And then equals 0, equals 0. So then I get x squared minus 4 times x plus 3, because we factor out the x plus 3, and you're left with the x squared minus 4. So you get x squared minus 4 equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0. Here it's x equals negative 3, because you subtract the 3. Here you get x squared equals 4. So you get x equals plus or minus 2. So all the answers would be negative 3, negative 2, 2. Okay? Let's look at another. Alright, so this one's very similar to the ones where everything inside the parentheses was being squared, but see how we had this plus 4? So before we do anything, we got to get rid of that 4. Common mistake made is the first step. People see that squared, so they want a square root, but you have to get it by itself first. So remember, x minus 3 equals plus or minus square root 2. Add the 3 over. X equals 3 plus or minus square root 2. Okay? Now here's a tricky one. Only because a lot of people are like, how do I solve for r? There's no numbers. Well, still identify what we're doing. Well, you have pi times r squared, so we got to get rid of the pi first. So divide everything by pi. Because how do you undo multiplication? Division. So you have r squared equals a divided by pi. Square root. You get r equals plus or minus square root of a over pi. Okay? So now we solve for it. Alright, let's start looking at some word problems now, guys. Alright, it says the height, h in feet, of an object thrown vertically upward from the top of a tower that is 140 feet tall is given by h equals 144 plus 128t minus 16t squared, where t measures the time in seconds from when the object is released. How long does it take the object to hit the ground? So the height of the ground is 0. So I'm going to rewrite the equation because I like having my a first. Ax squared plus bx plus c. I like having that in that order. Well, if you hit the ground, your height is now 0. Okay? Now you could use the quadratic formula here. There's a lot of things you could use. But one thing I notice is I can divide all of these by negative 16. So you would get t squared minus 8t minus 9 equals 0. And then this would be t minus 9 times t plus 1. So you get t equals 9 seconds and t equals negative 1 seconds. But can you have a negative 1 second? No. So it's just t equals 9. Okay? All right, let's take a look at another. It says the monthly profit P in dollars a company makes depends upon the amount X in dollars the company spends on advertising. According to the model, P equals 800 plus 120X minus 1 half X squared. Find the amount the company must spend on advertising to make a monthly profit of 8,000. Okay, so again, I'm going to rewrite this so I have negative 1 half X squared plus 120X plus 800 equals 8,000 because I want 8,000 in profit. Now let's get it equal to 0. So you're going to have negative 1 half X squared plus 120X minus 7,200 equals 0. Now, I don't like having this be a fraction, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 2, so I'd get, or negative 2 to make it positive. So I'm going to get X squared minus 240X plus 14,400 equals 0. Now you can try to factor, you can try to do quadratic formula. Let's see what works. So this is going to factor into X minus 120, X minus 120. So you get X equals $120. They're both 120, so you only need one of them. Okay. Let's take a look at one more. All right, it says find the rate of interest of an account if the principal invested into an account is $1,500 and the amount at the account of the end of 1 year is $1,685.40. All right, so standard is amount equals the initial deposit, 1 plus the rate times the time. Well, they're saying 1 year. So we had $1,685.40 with the initial $1,500 investment, 1 plus R to the first. So divide by 1,500. You get 1 plus R equals 1.1236. Subtract the 1. You get R equals 0.1236. Now, so that's the decimal form. So the rate, remember, to convert it to a percent, multiply by 100. So you get 12.36%. You find a bank that gives you that, let me know, I'm in. All right, we'll see you guys in class.